What up, my fellow Knicks fans? This is your guy Marcellus Ease, and don't panic quite yet. Now, ever since the Knicks signed Jalen Brunson for a discount, the clock instantly started ticking on making sure that the Knicks were able to utilize that cap space within a 3 to 4 year window. And we're beginning to see the final pieces of the dominoes fall with the fallout of Julius Randle in negotiations and the Knicks welcoming Karl-Anthony Towns back into the tri-state area. And things will get quite interesting going into the 24-25 season because Karl-Anthony Towns is the first Knicks player, I would say in the last 2 to 3 years, that does not necessarily fit in with the Tom Thibodeau characteristics that we normally seen from guys like Emmanuel Quickley, Dante DiVincenzo, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, etc. And in this segment right here, we'll be taking a look at some of those flaws, as well as some of the great strengths he does provide on the offensive end, opening the playbook for the Knicks offensively, especially with the spacing. Guys like Mikal Bridges could easily eat off that with all that off-ball movement, along with the pick and roll game with Jalen Brunson and Towns. That definitely will be as nasty as the Tyrese Maxey and Embiid pick and roll game that they have down there in Philly. And finally, at the end of this segment, we will take a look at Thibodeau's history with Karl-Anthony Towns in the playoffs and some of the major learning lessons Thibodeau had defending a prime James Harden and going against a spaced out Houston Rockets offense, which really reflects the offensive play styles most teams play with today. But hey, I'm not going to say no more. Let's just get to it.
See, as you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out. And also, if you stay down here and you never fuck around, you'll never find out.
Now, to start things off, Towns is definitely going to open up this offense, particularly for Jalen Brunson. As in year 2 with the Knicks, we've seen Brunson's pull-up game go up to a whole new level. Whether he was coming off of dribble handoffs from Hartenstein, he had the step back, shooting off the jab step and triple threat, also having no hesitation for when defenders go right under screens to pull up and shoot. This helped Brunson carry the offensive load with Julius Randle being down and the Knicks not necessarily having that second score. The pick and roll game between him and Hartenstein was a beautiful thing to watch. But now the Knicks have Karl-Anthony Towns, who for a career average shoots about 40% from 3, which is one of the best in the league. It's also going to make that pick and roll as deadly as the Embiid-Maxey combination. As right here, for example, Maxey, defenders don't want him to turn right here because of his speed. Brunson, very similar to Maxey, when he goes downhill and gets to his mid-range game around the free throw line, it's pretty much automatic for him at times, especially with his floater game. Teams don't want him to get down there. But now having Karl-Anthony Towns on the team, a very similar pop-out like Embiid right here could occur. But teams are going to have to pick their poison. It's either Cat's going to pop out for open 3, or teams are going to have to deal with Brunson dribble penetration, easily breaking down defenses for his own offensive creativity, or dishing out corner 3s to Mikal Bridges or OG Anunoby. And also, Karl-Anthony Towns being that front-facing player who can not only shoot, he's good at driving past players, getting that first step on them, but just him being that threat is going to open things up for Brunson and his off-ball movement. As we're going to see Maxey right here, nice little cut and catches OG lacking, but it's going to open up plays for Brunson to move like that off ball, because with all the injuries we had last season, we didn't really get to see him kind of get into that bag that he had it out in Dallas with Luka. And just Luka being that guy that draws a lot of attention, Brunson was able to not only move off ball and cut, he also got into his catch and shoot bag, which is something that he definitely has. We just really didn't get to see a lot of it due to the circumstances the team had with injuries last season. So this trade for the Knicks definitely opened up the possibilities of Brunson having a more versatile game on the offensive end. And here's another great example right here. I know you guys wonder why the fuck am I using the Maxey and B combo, but they definitely have the nastiest pick and roll, them along with Murray and Jokic. But right here, this angle, I just want to show you guys them running pick and roll. This could be OG or Mikal right here. So this will compromise defenses because they don't want Towns to shoot this open 3 from here. They don't even want him rolling because he's pretty agile going downhill. But also with Brunson, he has the nasty pull-up three he can utilize right here, or he could dribble penetrate and get downhill himself while Towns pops out. So a guy in Hart's position, let's say in reverse going against the Knicks, he would be kind of compromised right here, because this could be OG or Mikal sitting right here. So you see, Towns could hit this jumper also, but look at the assists. And this is another thing about Towns. He's going to have to get more comfortable making these type of passes. Because I'm not going to lie, last season in the playoffs, you can see he had issues sometimes operating as the roll man, making the initial passes. And just to piece this all together, here's a couple examples of Karl-Anthony Towns showing his mobility, just being able to get that first step on defenders and attack the lane quickly going downhill. He's not fast going side to side, but going downhill, he's pretty quick for a big man to get that first step. Very similar to a prime Carmelo Anthony. Had that quick first step, but defending guys from side to side, his legs really didn't look as sturdy. So we're seeing his ability to get that first step on defenders. And when you add on top of that Brunson's pull-up three in that possible pick and roll game with Towns, along with Brunson being able to go downhill and finish, a lot of what we've seen last year with Hartenstein, him just getting to his sweet spots in the paint and having a lot of games in which he scored 30 plus points, not necessarily coming from 3-point shots. Most of that came from him getting to his sweet spots in the paint. But you begin to see a deadly combination of teams having to deal with a Karl-Anthony Towns Brunson pick and roll. And teams just dealing with them two is only the beginning of that action. What about Mikal Bridges? As we've seen historically, this guy, he loves moving off ball. He has really good understanding on exactly when to make cuts, and he has really good finishing ability, not only taking it to the rack, but also just all over the paint. Fadeaways, he could do floaters. He's a good finisher with dunks. He could do it all in that paint area. That seems to be his sweet spot also, very similar to Brunson. Again, we're just breaking down the pick and roll between Towns and Brunson to start things off. And we're just going down the list of combination of possibilities between those two, with the pull-up threes from Brunson, or the pop-out threes from Towns, or Brunson penetrating into the lane, getting into his floater game, or Towns attacking closeouts from bigger defenders. And now we're getting into the other actions with Mikal Bridges making his cuts, being able to finish anywhere around the cup, even if he has to get to his fadeaway game around the paint. And for Karl-Anthony Towns, this is where he's going to have that next step up. It's not necessarily going to come from his scoring. He doesn't have to average 30 points a game or even 25 points a game on the Knicks, but he is going to have to start getting his assist up and fill in that Hartenstein void of just being a person who can make good decisions in that short roll. When OG or Mikal's making their cuts, could he make that initial pass? Especially if the defense is all drawn up on Brunson coming off that pick. That was a major issue in Minnesota. Not only the young Anthony Edwards, he's not quite there as far as in-game experience going deep into the playoffs with his decision making, because that pretty much was the difference in that Dallas Mavericks series in the Western Conference Finals. And you add on to the fact that Karl-Anthony Towns, in a way, is supposed to be his vet, and he's making the same mistakes in his passing game. This is a true void that the Knicks need Karl-Anthony Towns to fill. Of course, he's going to get his 20 points per game, but he doesn't necessarily have to go into averaging 27, 28, or even 25. If he averages anywhere from 24 points to 20 points a game, but those assist numbers are up, the Knicks should be experiencing more on-court success. And a perfect example of that was Hartenstein in that role last season with much lesser perimeter talent around him. But him just being able to be that guy to make proper screens, understanding which direction Brunson wants to go into, and also making smart decisions in those picks. Sometimes he would ghost the pick and completely roll, and Brunson would hit him off with the bounce pass in between two defenders, and he would go ahead and finish for the dunk. These are the key situations in which we're really going to miss Hartenstein. Now Towns right here, he's running the pick and roll out of this pass of Rudy Gobert, but just him operating out of that position, just horrible pass. And this is something that he's really going to have to work on. The Knicks are going to need him to cut down on the careless turnovers. Like, what is that? The Towns be having some Russell Westbrook type plays, man. I mean, at some point on the Knicks, he's going to be getting up to $60 million a year. So right here, Towns is operating in that Hartenstein role. Nice pass to Naz Reid, and they get the goaltend. So very early on in the season, outside of Towns' scoring, we really should be judging not only his passes out of the high post, but also his passes on the move, something that Julius Randle is really good on. Randle's really good at finding these cutters and making these passes. As we seen it play out last year during that 15-game run that we had in January, Randle was killing it, was getting into his bag, getting his assist up. Everything was flowing. It's very unfortunate Randle wasn't given a healthy opportunity to play with this healthy Knicks roster to see what's up. But again, contract negotiations broke down. It's all good. But Towns right here, the pass wasn't bad, but this is an area that he really needs to work on. And we'll be on the lookout for that in the beginning of the season. And also another thing about Towns, sometimes he settles for a more difficult shot. He has Edwards wide open right here. But he's going to opt out to take the more difficult shot. Something that a lot of centers over time get accused of. Patrick Ewing got accused of the same thing if you look back and take a look at the Knicks historically. This right here is exactly what I'm referring to. Anytime Ewing is going to turn around and take this baseline fadeaway J, he usually overlooks the open shooter because Ewing back in those times, he got blitzed. He's one of the best defenders in the league, and he's going up against the reigning defensive player of the year along with the regular season MVP and Hakeem Olajuwon, all-time great right there. But he's going to miss, I believe this is Greg Anthony or Derek Harper. And he sometimes will get criticized for this. See, but players back then, they didn't really have the freedom to take these type of shots. You see where Greg Anthony is? If he was a player of today, he would actually step fully behind this line. But back then, players just kind of played according to the flow of the game. They just utilized the spacing. If they could step up and take an easier shot, they would. But having your star center take a shot like this, it wasn't out of the ordinary. But again, Ewing at times, he got criticized for taking shots like this. And this right here is in the 94 finals. But fast forward, it's almost like going through a time machine. But I want to see Towns being able to kind of more utilize his ability to pass out of the post or cut down on the mistakes, especially if he's the person to initiate the pick and roll. It's a lot of unique combination Thibs can throw at teams this season. He could start a pick and roll with OG or start a pick and roll with Mikal. Have Mikal ghost the screen, perhaps cut to an open space on the floor, and Mikal could either take it to the rack. His face-up game is pretty good. He could take guys off their feet with his handles. And since the Knicks have a lot of cutters on the team, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, and to a degree, OG Anunoby, it's going to be very interesting to see how things play out as we see Edwards make a nice cut right here. And as the season progresses and the team gets better chemistry, will that improve Towns' playmaking ability or not? As right here, he's presented with two options, option A and option B. Let's just keep it at that, because with the Knicks, this could be Mikal right here. And this could be Brunson. But watch, you see, fake dribble handoff into a screen, and now Edwards is going to come around. But watch Towns right here. He could wait it out. He doesn't necessarily have to make the pass right away. He could wait it out to see what options open up, because Brown right here is trying to make the recovery to Edwards. So you see as Brown's making that recovery, let's say if he still had the ball, he still has a face-up game one-on-one with Horford, where we know if Horford advances too close to Towns, he can go by him. And with that 5-out spacing, look at all the space in the paint. You got Derek White as the low man. So you got a shooting guard defending the cup right now. But Towns' decision-making will be something to look out for, because if he still had the ball in his hands, he could have this shooter wide open. And for the Knicks, once again, this could have been Brunson, and this could be Mikal. So definitely not only Towns' ability to read the game, but also stay patient in certain key situations is going to be very keen to watch. And just touching up on the spacing, something that really kind of gets overlooked is the impact on Brunson within that dynamic. Just him having the ability to attack the lane while actually playing in a more modernized offense. He hasn't been in this scenario since he's been in Dallas with KP. Now in this game right here versus OKC, Luka is out. But still, look at the spacing that Dallas has, and now he can attack the lane. These are the options that Karl-Anthony Towns will open up for the Knicks. You know what? I should say this. It's not only Karl-Anthony Towns that gives Jalen Brunson options. It's also Mikal Bridges. Let's say this is Mikal right here. Now, defenders in SGA's position are going to have to make a decision. They can't really necessarily fully commit on the stunt when Jalen Brunson comes around and tries to get to his sweet spot anywhere in here in the paint. So not only Karl-Anthony Towns opens things up, let's say if he pops out of this pick, but you also have real three-point threats. So the Knicks this season is really betting on this offense. But again, the spacing completely opened things up for Brunson, just attacking. Again, here's some more examples of Brunson without Luka on the floor in a 5-out offense, a more modernized offense. So this is, for right now, our only looks at Brunson in this type of style. So these are the possibilities. Let's say if the Hornets had a real big man, he would have to have decisions right now. Either he stays down low and helps out with Brunson, or he leaves Towns wide open. So these are the possibilities here. This right here is a perfect example of taking the big man out the play. Watch KP take LeBron out this play, and as soon as LeBron is on his way out of the paint, that's when Brunson attacks. Brunson now makes his move. Look at LeBron, forced to make a decision. Stick with KP at the corner, or you help out with Brunson attacking. And look at the room, man. Brunson has plenty of room to throw up a floater or get into his bag. Now, even though AD is supposed to be the big man technically, defensively right now, the Lakers have LeBron as the person guarding the big man to conserve his energy. A lot of teams do this. So the Knicks going up against the Celtics when they love to put Jrue Holiday being the low man guarding the big man. Let's say now he has to guard Towns. That's going to be an issue for them. In the finals last year, they had Jason Tatum play this LeBron James role right now, conserving energy, guarding the big man. Now going up against the Knicks, it kind of compromises teams with their star players, because now Jason Tatum can't necessarily be guarding Towns when he's expected to have so much offensive output on the other end of the court. So this season, things are going to get quite interesting. You see LeBron out of the play. He's supposed to be guarding KP. Easy layup for Brunson. So with Karl-Anthony Towns on the team, eventually the Knicks are going to get a mismatch on the high post when you have a stretch big like that. So in a scenario like this, now Brunson can get back to his bag that he was in Dallas, which is his catch and shoot. And LeBron is going to stunt in. Look at Brunson, wide open. Brunson's going to have wide open threes this season, especially with Mikal and OG being threats from three, and just Mikal making all his cuts and his fadeaway shots in the paint. Brunson is definitely going to get back into his catch and shoot bag. And best believe he has that in his arsenal. LeBron once again taken out of the rim protection. AD is way up here. He got pulled into the action in the pick and roll with Brunson, and he's going to be forced to pedal back. Look at that open lane, man, Brunson has. See, LeBron should be somewhere down here. Normally with the old Knicks rosters with Mitchell Robinson and just having Julius Randle at times, the lane tend to get clogged up, especially with RJ Barrett also there. So now with this more modernized offense that we have with a stretch big, Karl-Anthony Towns will be pulling guys out of the paint, leaving more space for Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson to attack. So when defenders like LeBron James right here begin to hedge, trying to stop Brunson from making that turn, Because LeBron, at this point in his career, he does not want to be all the way out here. He wants to be the low man. But because Dallas has a real stretch five, he has to be up here now where he's really uncomfortable. And it's an easy pop out to KP. Right here is a great example of the same play, but without a stretch five. Hartenstein does a great job of rescreening right here. But now we're going to see Brunson make the turn and go downhill. It's still a difficult shot. But what really saved the Knicks on that play was Hartenstein rescreening. Let's take a look at that again. Look at this rescreen. Ooh. That was really the Knicks. That two-man game between Ihart and Brunson last season, boy, that really saved the Knicks, especially with those high screens. Sometimes even almost at half court. It really changed the spacing. Look at Embiid. He's just backpedaling at this point. Now, this is another prime example of having a stretch five. Just draws so much attention. Look at KP as he makes his way down. But looks like he's going to get a little flare screen right here to pop out for the three. And look no further than Cat. Cat's going to get caught kind of confused or in between a rock and a hard place because two actions are happening at once. Pick and roll right here. Sort of a flare screen to the three-point line for KP. And two things are happening at once. Get Cat's attention. Once again, the big man draws out defenders, leaving the paint wide open. So Brunson right now, he threads the needle. And it's an easy bucket. That right there could be a play for a guy like Mikal Bridges. Once again, we're taking a look at the possibilities with no Luka on the floor. KP, stretch five. He's a threat from three. Defenders have to respect it. So look at Brunson. See, the double team doesn't come right away like it used to. If this was Hartenstein, normally both defenders would track back. But they have to respect it because of the threat. And also, the big man draws out Gobert. So look at the spacing in the lane. But Brunson doesn't even have to do all that. He could just pull up. Another dynamic here at play is how our teams with drop back bigs in the Eastern Conference going to defend the Knicks. KP has stretched out the floor. Look at all the Mavericks players. For example, this could be Karl-Anthony Towns. This could be Joel Embiid in the 76ers. They play this type of defense. Drop back big. Same thing for the Milwaukee Bucks with Lopez. It'll be a drop back big along with Towns now dragging out defenders from the paint area. So Brunson will definitely have more room to operate, and it compromises this defender right here because this could be Mikal Bridges. So he necessarily can't stunt in too hard and clog up the lanes for Brunson's attack, leaving Mikal open for a wide open three. So you see how now, especially in the Eastern Conference, the Bucks and the 76ers defensively are kind of in a brand new position when it comes to defending the Knicks. And watching this play out, look at all the spacing Brunson has, and he just draws a foul. But again, this is all possible due to KP spacing out the floor. In seasons past, we would have had Randall, RJ, and Mitchell Robinson all clogging up the lanes. So looking back at Brunson playing in a more modern style that kind of fits in a way that teams play out today, it's him kind of returning back to his original style of when he first came into the league. Look at KP right here avoiding the contact. Throws a little ghost screen because he sort of popped out. Man, look at all this spacing right here. This is crazy. Knicks don't normally have this type of spacing. So again, this is for us to get more of an idea of the possibilities with the Knicks having now a stretch five. And we're going to see Brunson's decision making put more to the test this season, as he doesn't necessarily have to carry the offensive load like last year. I think he's going to pass it to the roll man. And got KP wide open. Keep in mind, Karl-Anthony Towns, career 40% shooter from three. Teams are going to be overly focused on the pick and roll. As you see Brunson do a fake dribble handoff. Look at all that spacing he has. And he's going to have his corner shooters, Mikal and OG. Right here, here's Brunson creating some offense out of the attention that KP is getting. while stretching the floor because he's trying to line up to go through the screen to shoot a three. But Brunson reads his play perfectly. Watch it play out. It wouldn't surprise me to see Brunson get his assist numbers up with the Knicks offensive playbook just being so wide open right now. Now going back to Karl-Anthony Towns, and for the Knicks this season, there is elements of his game that we are going to need him to mirror Isaiah Hartenstein when it comes to the way he reacts out of the short roll, being able to finish on his own, showing off some of that athleticism he has going downhill, just like Hartenstein did at times when Jalen Brunson would give him the ball, when he would thread the needle when defenders would hedge, and Hartenstein would have the ability to finish at the hoop. He's going to make defenders pay if they step too close to him. He could easily blow by you, or if you give him too much room, he will step up and take that three, or he could hit the mid-range. But ironically, on the defensive side, he does not share the same lateral movement as Isaiah Hartenstein when it comes to defending. He's more of a drop back coverage big who at times, when you leave him one-on-one with a dynamic backcourt player or just a dynamic wing, this guy kind of operates on spaghetti legs. Very similar to Carmelo Anthony. He had that powerful first step, especially in his prime years. But defending, going side to side, he always looked lost. And Karl-Anthony Towns, as I alluded earlier before, he is the first player that the Knicks have gotten in the last 2 to 3 years that does not necessarily fit the characteristics of a Thibs type player. Karl-Anthony Towns right here, I don't know if he thinks James Harden is Ben Simmons, but it's your job, man. Step up. And then the lack of agility right here. It just looks kind of clunky. And check out the recovery. It's like he's doing old man cone drills. It just looks very clunky. Now, on this goal screen by Kawhi, right here, you're going to see Towns. You ever been to the car dealership and you see like the inflatable tube, man, where the wind is blowing and that thing is flailing everywhere? That's how Towns look like right here. What the fuck? He's just everywhere, but nowhere at the same time. Now, Tatum right here has Towns where he wants him, out in the open. Look at that. The game is tied, 120 apiece, a minute left in the game. And just pay attention to Karl-Anthony Towns' hips, the way he just moves from side to side. Tatum just completely shakes him. Again, as we see right here, Towns has the athleticism to blow by guys that guard him too close and finish in the lane. Very athletic for his size when it comes to him going straight downhill. But on the defensive side, it's a completely different story. But on the defensive end, I don't know why, but it's just a different story. And in the 6 seasons he's had with the Minnesota Timberwolves, they finished for the most part every season a bottom defense. That includes the years that Thibs was there, also the years that Jimmy Butler was there. But right here, I'm not going to lie, Cat jumps like he has a bad hip. Got that old man jump. With Cat, I don't know if it's the technique or just the lack of details. Look at Bam on this catch. And look at Cat's body position. He never seems to have great positioning off rip. The Celtics right here, they drag Cat into this action right here, knowing that he's just going to drop back. And this is too easy for Tatum to just pull up and shoot this three. But normally what good teams do is that when Tatum was about to hit this pick and roll before that, they switch. Towns would have switched, and then they would have switched again. So Towns could be on the furthest offensive player that's away from the play. But good teams like the Celtics, what they do is that when they see you making those switches, like while Towns is in between making the switch from this player to this player, the Celtics would drag this player back into the action. So they did that during the finals with Kyrie Irving and Luka. But right here, this is just way too easy. You would think Towns is stiff, but just looking at this play right here, look how he blows by everyone and draws the foul. It's all in the effort. This is going to be real interesting to see how Thibodeau is going to handle this. But again, going to the defensive side of the ball, here's a real interesting play right here. SGA one-on-one, down low with Rudy Gobert. Look who Towns is guarding. Lou Dort, who's not really a three-point shooter. So Towns should have stunted in right here, helped out. Lou Dort is not going to make it rain from out there like that. Look at Towns. It's getting lack of effort. Now, teams that have a lot of switchable players like OKC, as we could see, Jalen Williams is on the ball. Naz Reid is completely caught on the screen. So why is Towns still going under? You should try to hedge right now. But Towns goes under also and does like a cartoon type. I don't know what the fuck that is. That's not even a block, but he just looked like a cartoon character. Let's look at that again. What was Towns doing? Going back to the details, it's all about the positioning. Look at Towns. Look how he positions himself. Just get in front of SGA. Doesn't position himself correctly. SGA just takes it to the cup and draws the foul. Just look at the difference. When Curry rejects his screen, look at Hartenstein. He contested. It's all in the details. Check out Hartenstein right here. As he's going to recover because Randall's going to get blown by. But he backs him up. See, eyes on the ball, eyes also on his man. It's a lot of the little things, you know, Towns is really going to help us out with. Look at Curry right here as he rejects his screen. But check out Hartenstein. Hartenstein does a good job staying in front of Curry while McBride tries to recover. See? Now Hartenstein recovers. Back to Draymond. Let's look at that one more time. See, he stays in front of him. Watch, he's going to point. See, you see how he blocks the lane? CP3 can't quite thread the needle fast enough. Hartenstein is real alert. He has his eyes on the ball and on his man. Like, he understands the assignment. That's all about details. Check out Hartenstein. It's all about the details. Look at his recovery. Look at his positioning in the recovery. Check gets called for the turnover. Again, let's look at that one more time. Look at Hartenstein. He always has an eye on the ball and his man. Towns, for some reason, he's always caught in between this guy getting a floater or this guy somehow passing to someone else and getting off an alley dunk. Once again, right here, it's all about the details. Look at Hart. He's paying attention. He helps contest that. It's little things like this we're going to look out for Towns and what he does. But funny thing right here, I've noticed with KP, he does not really ever set a full screen. He really does not like contact at all. It's hard to believe at a point in his career he was viewed as a guy that can actually have a team build pieces around him. He cannot hold down a team for no 82 games in a season. But going back to this, looking at the defense, these are things we're going to judge Karl-Anthony Towns on. Look at Hartenstein. Kind of plays the drop back coverage a little bit. On the corner of his eye, he's looking at KP. And just look at his recovery. At least apply a little ball pressure. But when it comes to Towns, there's definitely lack of effort. Look at right here. Slothman gets involved in a pick and roll. And look at Towns right here. Towns is actually in a drop back coverage. Good positioning. Kind of want to get in between these two defenders a little bit, back up. But he basically pulls out real early right now. And it's going to leave an open lane. I believe this is Miles Bridges to attack. Look at Towns. What the fuck is he doing? And look at Slothman just yelling at him. Like, Slothman is sick. What can you say to one of the franchise guys when he's putting out effort like that? But Towns in this very game scored 62 points and was benched for crucial parts of this game. Unreal. Here's another play with Towns sleeping at the wheel. PJ pulls up. Barely a contest from Towns and splash. Now this season, we're going to see if Thibs has the reins to bench Towns for plays like this, where he's just watching like a spectator on the bench. Not even a contest. Towns got to be on it early. Look at PJ. He's making his way to the three-point line. Towns at some point is going to clearly see that. See right here. Towns is too late to react. He should have been reacting already. Let's look at it. Very nonchalant. Very, very nonchalant. Now, the addition of Rudy Gobert a few seasons ago may have actually provided a cushion for Towns even more, for him not to necessarily worry about defense as much, because low-key, Towns really hasn't played the center position in 2 seasons. So he's going into this season with high expectations for the Knicks to be the starting center when he's been alleviated of those physical duties for 2 years. So things are definitely going to get interesting down at MSG. Now, staying on the exact game where Karl-Anthony Towns dropped 62 points and got benched. And right here, I really can't quite tell if Towns actually stepped away from his drop back coverage too early, but it's real close. It's real close. Like, he bails on it already. Look at the defender. As soon as he bails, he reacts. You know, with Karl-Anthony Towns, what really separates him from getting up to that next level and being recognized as one of the top tier players in the league is his defense. And historically, if you look at some of the best centers to ever come into the league, they actually help their teams on both ends of the floor while maintaining that same offensive output that Karl-Anthony Towns had throughout his whole career. Now right here, this is game 2 of the NBA Finals. The Knicks are only up 1. And Patrick Ewing continuously made major stops on an all-time great center in Hakeem Olajuwon. This is what really separates Karl-Anthony Towns from just being that occasional all-star, a person that's on the fringe of making the 3rd All-NBA team, and him just getting up to that next level. Look at Ewing right here. He practically galvanized the Knicks defense into a Game 2 victory. I mean, look at Ewing right here battling with Hakeem down low. This is back-to-back plays where he calls an all-time great to turn the ball over. This is the difference between Karl-Anthony Towns going up to that next level. I don't know if this season Thibs can get his foot up his ass, man, to have him more detail-oriented. Because even the great players like Ewing went through a similar phase, not necessarily in the aspect of not taking pride in their defense, but trying to get up to the next level. And for Ewing, if you look back historically, I believe it started in the 92-93 season where he took more of an onus. You've seen him barking at guys, taking full responsibility of the outcomes of the games. Everything fell on him. And no offense to Towns coming from Minnesota, it's just been so lackadaisical. And even through all that nonchalant bullshit that they were on, him and Andrew Wiggins still scored a max deal with no fucking contest from the front office. So that's the culture he's coming from down there in Minnesota. And they just started having expectations, I would say, in the last 2 years. But just staying on the Knicks, we're going to really see Thibodeau. How much pull does he have on the Knicks this season? I know he just got extended for 3 years, but there is no doubt that Cat is the first player on this team that doesn't necessarily have the characteristics that Thibs is looking for. And just a little bonus, we're going to take a look at some of the learning lesson Thibodeau had when he was out there in Minnesota with Cat, going up against the Houston Rockets in the 2018 playoffs. And the reason why this is real important here is because the Rockets, in a way, were kind of, I don't want to say ahead of their time, but the way their team was constructed, being a three-point shooting team with a good backcourt of CP3 and James Harden under the Mike D'Antoni system, they played a style of basketball that a lot of teams play today, which is that 5-out offense, a lot of three-point shooting. And Thibodeau throughout that series had a lot of difficulty on where to place Cat to guard that pick and roll with James Harden and CP3 and others. And they completely torched the Minnesota Timberwolves. All right, so just to add some context into this series, the Timberwolves gave up 110 points per game. And also, this is Karl-Anthony Towns' 3rd year in the NBA. And this series is overall a reflection of Thibs and some of the lack of adjustments he made, especially with Karl-Anthony Towns in these pick and roll situations. As James Harden rejects the screen, but Towns never really fully commits to Harden or even preventing this pass, this alley-oop pass to Capella. He seemed to be in that gray area throughout the whole series. And even throughout this series, Cat in these pick and roll situations Doesn't really take away any angles for passes or even to step up and contest James Harden. As right here, we're going to see him. Look where Cat is at. This is a clear angle right here. No communication either, whether to switch or not. Doesn't really take away anything. Leaves him open for easy too. Again, Towns with poor positioning. Normally right here, just step up to Harden. You can't give him any breathing room. Because once any defender goes under, this is prime James Harden. He's going to pull up and take that shot. Look at Cat. His eyes is never on his man and the ball at the same time. Here's Towns again. We're going to look at his positioning. He's guarding PJ Tucker right here. Not really a high percentage three-point shooter, but he doesn't help out Harden at all. He's just standing there watching. Cat, once again, his eyes is never on his man and the ball at the same fucking time. Now right here, the Rockets running multiple actions. Harden pops out. Paul eventually becomes the screener. And at the same time, Capella is going to do a dribble handoff. Look at CP3. He screens for Harden. Multiple actions running at the same time. Capella is rolling really wide. But once again, Towns, he's never in a position to either step up and deflect this pass. Use his wingspan to make it tough for James Harden to get this alley pass off. Let's take a look at it one more time. Check out Harden and CP3. One action here. Goes into another one. Towns even contest that. Now right here, check out Towns' positioning. He's right next to Capella. Capella is not a jump shooter. But James Harden with the blow by. Look at Cat. Slow to react. Where's the effort, Cat? And look at Taj Gibson. He's very frustrated. Should have got some help. So now that we've seen Cat's organic positioning in previous plays, now we're going to take a look at the real way Thibs had him defend on the floor with this drop back coverage. And with the Houston Rockets just having dynamic guards in James Harden and CP3. Once players go under the screen, especially with Cat all the way back like this, it's easy goings for players like this. And this is where Thibs possibly should have made some adjustments right here. Towns with the step back, just giving Harden just way too much room. He's going to cook from out here. Easy step back. Again, right here, another Capella Harden pick and roll. Look at the spacing Harden has. Look at Jimmy. He's still trying to recover to Harden. And now Harden's going to charge at the rim. And just look at the overall poor contest by Towns. Now with CP3 here, we're going to see Towns drop back coverage. And normally this is where teams would make adjustments like the Golden State Warriors, where they will have this defender switch here, and then Towns would switch here. But look at Towns as he's backpedaling. He's one-on-one with CP3 on the island right here. It's like, why is he still backing up? Easy money. This is where communication adjustments have to be made. Derrick Rose is clearly caught. Thibs should have had Jimmy step in, Towns stay with Capella, and Rose, right on this turn right here, jump to Harden. But easy shot, like not even a contest from Towns. Towns at certain portions of this series was so far back that it was virtually impossible for his teammates to recover. Look how much time CP3 has. He's nearly tap dancing in the paint. Towns right here is so far back. We're going to see CP3 just have ample time that he loses the ball. Still has time to recover and get something off. Look at this right here. Man, we're going to see if Thibs has power this season to bench Cat for any lackluster bullshit like this. Cat's right here and drop back. Look at CP3. His man is caught. Jimmy Butler is caught right here on the screen. So it will be up to Cat to step up or communicate to Wiggins to step up. But this doesn't make any sense right here. In a way, we're seeing why the Timberwolves went out and got Rudy Gobert. Now, in training camp, we're hearing that the Knicks potentially might go to a switching defense, which would make sense in a play like this. As you can see, multiple actions are happening here. Jimmy should stay with CP3. Wiggins should step up to Harden. And Cat should stick to Capella, with him being the slowest guy on the floor, while Jeff Teague makes his run to cover PJ. So it should be Jimmy staying with CP3, Cat staying with Capella, switch, switch, switch. But that takes a lot of communication, but this is potentially something that we could see the Knicks make adjustments with having Towns on the floor this season. Communication's got to be A1. There's already a few teams that play like this to hide certain defenders. Dallas Mavericks, the Golden State Warriors, just a few teams I can name off the top of my head. Now, a vulnerability that Cat has in this drop back coverage, especially around the free throw line, seems like that's what Thibs had him doing all series long, is he's vulnerable to these rescreens. As we're going to see Capella kind of throw these rescreens at Jimmy Butler, and look at Harden. He just has all day. Again, check out Towns during these rescreens. He's just standing there. And this series is a perfect example of why things like this kind of fell on Thibs and Karl-Anthony Towns, but especially Thibs. No adjustments, no switches. The communication was poor. So the pivot, fast forwarding to 2024, is going to be real. And it's going to be very, very interesting. The Knicks have OG and Mikal Bridges, guys who could defend multiple positions. So things are going to get quite interesting. But this Minnesota Timberwolves team also had players who could defend multiple positions. Andrew Wiggins and Jimmy Butler. But maybe things internally couldn't get this team on point. The Tom Thibodeau era in the T-Wolves kind of signified for him the changing of the guard among head coaches, the way they could interact with the new generation of players that I want to say are a bit more sensitive at times, but the relationship between head coach and player, it's more of a partnership. As to the eras prior of Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, etc., the head coach was really the commander-in-chief. But Thibs' fallout with Andrew Wiggins and Karl-Anthony Towns probably served as a learning lesson, and he's probably found new ways of motivating this era of players, not necessarily through the old tactics from before. But right here, Towns once again, drop back coverage, way too far on James Harden. He sees his man is caught. Butler's completely caught on this, but look at the amount of space Harden gets. He can knock down jumpers from here. And Harden just stays patient with it. Now, Towns, once again, his eyes got to be here and here. And just his positioning is off. Just makes it too easy for PJ. Once again, I'm using this series because the Houston Rockets in 2018, this team reflects a lot of the teams today, with a dynamic backcourt with CP3 and Harden. You also got shooters. Look at Eric Gordon right here. And this is going to be a pick and roll between Harden and Gordon right here, right on Wiggins. And once again, Towns drop back coverage on 2 3-point shooters. Harden could easily pop out. That's if Wiggins follows, because Cat is just, the defense is just obvious. He's going to be back there. See, too far back to defend this 3-point shooter. This is an easy shot. This type of coverage is horrible going against these 5-out, spaced out teams. And at the time in 2018, the Rockets and Warriors were one of the more proficient teams at this. But fast forward to the NBA today, more teams are just as efficient in this type of play style. Just seeing the way Cat operated defensively with Thibs as a coach in this type of structure is very, very interesting. Cat in drop back coverage, he seems to never be in position to contest a shot or even an alley pass if possible. So switching is going to be real important. The coverage right here, you could tell for Towns is natural. Jimmy gets caught in staggered screens, one from CP3, the next one from Capella. Meanwhile, Cat just organically backs up. See, Jimmy gets caught in that second screen. Look at Cat still backing up. Harden just having all day. It just gets nastier from here. Wow, look at Towns, man. I can't believe this is fucking defense. And you look at the league now, it's like hierarchy conundrums. What is Thibs supposed to say to the franchise star at this very moment? This is before Anthony Edwards came to the team. But when you look at Towns, look at right here. He doesn't even contest CP3. And it's things like this that hurt Carmelo's career. Him being allowed in Denver to kind of get away with certain things, even though he had his 2 first head coaches both call him out on it. It was definitely around the time where the league was transitioning, giving the younger players a lot of power within the franchises, and the coaches were kind of dialed back a little bit. In the later part of his career, we've seen his lack of defensive awareness. It came back to haunt him. But Karl-Anthony Towns, almost a decade in, this is going to be very interesting to see how Thibs gets him to buy in to what the Knicks are doing. You know, it's a good thing in a way that Karl-Anthony Towns has entered into the Knicks ecosystem, not having the same star power leverage that Melo had on the Knicks when he first came in. So Towns' bad habits could be called out. That's really the only difference I could see between him and Melo's situations on the Knicks. But right here, as you see, Towns in drop back coverage, Capella's just going to rescreen. And it's easy money. Look at that. How many times he's going to rescreen? There's a few more examples of CP3 just having all day. No contest from Towns. This right here is a T-Wolves facing elimination. Pick on Teague. Look at the coverage, the drop back coverage. Look at Towns right here. What is that? Elimination game. Playing like that in an elimination game is wild. Jamal Crawford completely gets caught right here. Look at Towns. He just stays back by the free throw line. Yeah, a lot of this is really inexcusable. Right here, pick and roll. Look where Cat is at. Sheesh. There's no excuse for this. At this point, you got to ask yourself, is Cat pretending to play defense? Look at him. Look at him. Is he pretending? But it is what it is. For a lot of the offensive versatility Cat brings, defensively, the Knicks, they kind of do have enough to hide him with Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, but a lot of the cultural habits he picked up in the last, I would say, 9 years in Minnesota, and the fact that they brought in Rudy Gobert to have him avoid playing the center position, there's definitely going to be major retooling from Tom Thibodeau. And Cat already knows the tri-state area is not going to accept that type of defensive effort. They're going to be on your ass, Cat. But we'll see. Throughout the season, I'll be touching base on various concepts relating to some of the characteristics the Knicks will develop going into this season with this new redefined roster. So, until next time, you fellas, stay safe. Peace.